Today's episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast is brought to you by Texan Senior Residential Care Homes, ATD Painting, and Performance Food Group. Texan Senior Residential Care Homes, senior care at its best with a family atmosphere. Obviously, if all seniors had the option, they would be living at home, but sometimes that isn't always possible. Well, guess what? That is where Texan Senior Residential Care Homes comes into the picture. Texan specializes in making its facilities as close to a home living experience as possible. I'm talking full living room, kitchen, dining room, cable TV, music, games, fireplace, you name it. Texan Senior Residential Care Homes has it. They've even got home cooked meals by experts. It's an extra throw-in. Not only that, there are no move-in fees, no visitation restrictions, so your loved ones are free to stop by and visit anytime they please. Texan Senior Residential Care Homes are located at I-635 and Marsh Lane in Dallas, right near Carrollton. For more info, you can call 469-400-7650. Texan Senior Residential Care Homes. And now, let's podcast. Welcome to another edition of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch. I'm the sports editor at Star Local Media, and I am being joined by Justin Thomas and Taylor Raglin. And gentlemen, let's sound the alarm for an emergency podcast. Obviously throughout the week we devote these primarily to football, given the sway that high school football carries in our coverage area. But you know what, man? Volleyball is, we're into the second half of district. There's plenty of fascinating stuff happening on the volleyball courts for all of our markets, just about. So you know what? We're going to make an executive decision, and we're calling for an emergency podcast so we can show volleyball some love, because it is, there's just too much. There's too much to talk about that we just haven't had a chance to get to yet on the podcast. So we're going to talk about just about every market that we've got going on, and just kind of give y'all an update as far as some of the more prominent storylines going on in high school volleyball, because this is a sport that just year in, year out produces some of the best teams in the state. This year is looking like it's going to be no different. So let's have some fun talking some volleyball and all the fun times going on in our on the local volleyball courts. So with the three of us, Taylor, we can shift gears to start with District 9-6A, and just what is always, as you'd expect, nothing less, just a wild topsy-turvy district with I believe as many as 5 teams were at one point ranked in the top 15 of a state poll this season.
Yeah, especially in the preseason.
Yeah, one of the best volleyball districts that you'll find in the state, and it is certainly panning out as such. We'll just kind of focus primarily on Plano ISD and Allen. We'll leave Prosper, McKinney ISD to Bryan Murphy, Kendrick Johnson a bit later in the podcast. But yeah, man, a fascinating year for Plano ISD, especially out on the west side. So let's start with old Plano West, a team that began the year in the highest of highs with just a dominant non-district season, and now they're working through a little bit of adversity.
Yeah, and they're still it's crazy to sit here and say that they're underachieving when they're like 30-9. Yeah. So it's not like they're bad by any stretch. Awesome. And I think they only have 2 district losses. I think they've lost to Prosper, they've lost to McKinney,
and they lost
3.
To Plano.
They lost to Plano. Yeah. So it's a weird scenario where I feel like it's maybe just a year too soon. I think that the preseason and the hype were deserved for what they did, and for the teams that they were beating and the runs that they were going on and winning all those tournaments that they won. But it's been them getting in their own way, honestly. Mm-hmm. Every time I've seen Plano West play, and every time I've talked to head coach Justin Waters, who I think is still officially interim, but has done a good job this season, I think, with what he's got. But every time I've talked to him after a match, it's been, we're making errors, we're getting in our own way, that was sloppy, this isn't the team that I see every day in practice. So I think it may just be immaturity. They're still so young. Their 2 best hitters are juniors, and Jill Presley and Amon Ndiaye, but at the same time, there's just so much youth on that team everywhere, and I don't know if the hype, got to them and kind of made them settle in a way that they shouldn't have, or if they just weren't quite ready to get over that hump, or who knows what the situation is. And this is all with the caveat of they still could be very good, and they should still be very dangerous when they make playoffs, because they will make the playoffs. I firmly believe that they're going to be a playoff team, and they could be one of those really sneaky. They may end up the 4th seed now, but that team's so talented, especially coming out of the 4th seed, that they could make some noise and go a couple rounds deep, and who knows, but definitely not living up to the world beater that we thought they would be, when the preseason was wrapping up.
Because, this is a team that won their first 2 tournaments of the season, which if you win multiple tournaments in a non-district schedule, that's awesome, especially when you play in the kind of tournaments that Plano ISD normally does. And with West, I feel like, you've been around the sport for a while, Justin, it feels like every year we do kind of see teams that just immediately jump off the page early on in the season and just pick up some really marquee wins. But then once district starts, it does feel like things kind of level out a bit, and I'm not sure if it's maybe certain teams are more, like their skill sets are more conducive to playing tournaments, because when you play 4 or 5 matches in a day, maybe they just happen to fit that style
and
of play better.
And you play 3 set matches too in a lot of cases, where you're playing 5 set matches and things can get a little bit more out of hand, and runs start to mean maybe a little bit more, and there's more time for other teams to.
At the same time, you're not. I think the strategic aspect of volleyball is a bit more prominent in district now that you have a bit more game film on these teams.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think is getting to see these teams on tape, and then seeing teams that you're familiar with, that you've played a lot. Maybe even you've seen them in these preseason tournaments. I know a lot of my teams in the district played each other before they even got to district. So, but I think the getting film on tape and the scouting and preparation in district kind of leads to that.
Because with West, they were our, I think, a near consensus pick. When we were doing our district predictions to win,
they were everybody's. You looked at any ranking system in the state, they were number 1 or number 2 or at least in the top 5. They were everybody's pick to win 9-6A, even though it's a very deep district, which it's obviously been proven to be.
Maybe part of it there, didn't they have a coaching change right before the season too? So maybe a little bit of excitement, getting used to the new coach, and then kind of settling into the routine.
I guess so.
Tapered off a little bit.
Yeah, but it's also strange because a lot of times, you look at a team like, Plano East also had a coaching change and is working under an interim coach, but that came more in the middle of everything, and sometimes that's really can adversely affect a team. But it was strange. I guess what you said could be true. Maybe they were just excited to play under a new coach and a new style and maybe a little bit of a different mindset, but at the same time the results were still there. Justin Waters took over before they played a match, I think. And they beat Hebron under him. I think in the very first match that he coached, they won those 2 tournaments under him. So it's not that he hasn't produced any results. It's just all of a sudden they just kind of fell off the face of the earth as far as showing up against the true contenders in 9-6A, I think, because they've still taken care of business against Allen and the bottom of the district, which are still no joke. Those teams are still very good volleyball teams, but they haven't been able to show up for the McKinneys and Prospers and even Plano's outside of a district opening win against
Plano. They did take a set off Prosper, which in hindsight is that's actually pretty impressive now.
Well,
they've lost 2 sets all season.
That's the one match I've seen Prosper, and that was really strange because it was all West. That first set was all West, and then it just kind of spiraled out of control from there. It was really strange. A lot of it is maybe Prosper's gym is a very harsh place to go play. There's a lot of noise and crowd factor and
just the bowl thing.
It's definitely one of the true
impressive facility.
There's not a lot of home court advantage, I don't think, in high school volleyball, but Prosper certainly has that. So maybe that's a factor. But it was strange. It was an implosion, and that's what I would say in a lot of these West matches. That's what it's been. It's been maybe they get off to a good start, and then all of a sudden they just get in their own way.
But that being said, though, they still do control their own destiny relative to a playoff berth. They are 4-3, but they were 3rd place last week, and now they have dipped down to that 4 seed, at least as of now, after they dropped a 3-1 match at home, oddly enough, to Plano, which is another team that is always in that playoff mix. Plano has been, for the longest time, they have been that district's model of consistency. Taking away Prosper, who's in its first year in 6A, of you're between PISD, Allen, and McKinney ISD. Plano has the longest active playoff streak among those teams. They've made it every year under head coach Terry Minnis, and right now they're in position to extend that streak. They're 5-3. They're in 3rd place right now, and it's a team that has started to kind of pick things up quite a bit. They were able to pick up some key wins over Plano West, obviously, and then McKinney Boyd just the same. With Plano, their identity is the setter-hitter connection between Faith Panhands and Julia Adams, as strong a hitter-setter connection as you will find in the Metroplex. Julia Adams, a 3-year varsity starter. She was was the co-MVP of District 6XA last season, and just straight up one of the top hitters in the area. I mean, and Plano knows that, and everybody else that plays Plano knows that, and yet there is still no slowing her down, especially late in sets. I mean, I've seen, Plano too much over the years, and I mean, they will just, if it is a tight set, they will set Julia Adams, and if that doesn't, if she doesn't put down a kill there and they get the ball back, they will go right back to her. I mean, they will bleed that stone dry every bit that they can, and they will definitely go out on their Julia Adams sized shield if the opportunity calls for it. I mean, what sets her apart is just her size. I mean, she's I want to say 6'2" or so, and just the size and the length, and the fact that she has the ability to hit over blocks, which is just it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, players like Amon and who you mentioned with Plano West, she's capable of that.
It's a lot of fun watching those two teams play each other.
It is such an advantage when you have a player that can put balls down at that kind of an angle that just makes it so tough on a defense. They're also really young on the back row with Neilani Feliciano, Trinity Huynh, both freshmen. So I mean, that obviously sets up very well. Big picture for Plano. They've got Sophie Robinson manning the middle at blocker. She had 6 blocks the other day in just 3 sets against Allen. I mean, it is a very well-rounded team with like I said, one of the top hitters in the area, and that's been a formula that has been it has obviously served them very well. As far as kind of looking big picture for them, like I said, this felt like looking over the standings right now, this is kind of turning into a 5-team race for 4 playoff spots, albeit those 6 and 7 seeds are still plenty dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's a question of simply, you have to take care of business against those bottom 2 seeds, Plano East and Allen, and then it just boils down to who has the best head-to-head record among those top 5. And I think that win over Plano West, that is a huge.
It was big because it's 1-1 now.
For Plano, just looking forward, with just mentioned Allen, and it's just been a rough year for Allen. This is a program that, much like Plano, they're always in that playoff mix. And for last year, Allen was just snake bitten by just the injury bug, and you'd think that after just the sheer odds would what are the odds they could go through the same exact thing 2 years in a row? Well, apparently,
pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good, because that's been the story this season. I mean, even before the season started, they were already up against it when you could argue their top returning hitter, Morgan Kristen, who has been a 4-year varsity starter, she broke her thumb playing club volleyball, and was expected to be sidelined until later this month. She might not get cleared now until November, I've heard. But yeah, I mean, she is one of 4 seniors on a team that only had 7 coming into the season that is out for the season due to injury. Emily Yannick, another massive player who is kind of their jack of all trades, do it all type. She tore her ACL in their district opener against Plano, and this team just cannot catch a break. So as a result, they're now forced to throw out a ton of underclassmen. I mean, there are times when you see Allen play, and it'll be just all but one player on the court. It's going to be like a freshman or a sophomore.
And still competing, which is, I mean, good for them.
There's plenty of talent there. They're just really young, so you'll see moments of these flashes of brilliance where they are able to do things like push McKinney to 5 sets last week. I saw them against Plano, last Tuesday, and I mean, with the exception of that 3rd set, I mean, they gave Plano all they could handle. I mean, it's still a tough team that has a lot of talent. It's just you have to juxtapose that with moments where you look like a young team, where you just commit the kind of errors that are symptomatic of a team
and a district too that. We talk a lot about Plano West getting in their own way and errors and stuff. That team is just talented enough to overcome a lot of that stuff a lot of nights. So it's, Allen may make the playoffs in a different 6A district. I think they probably would. It's just it's a combination of bad luck. It's the wrong district to have a lot of injury problems. See, I mean, they're currently 0-8 in district, but nevertheless, I mean, they are still, as evidenced by that McKinney match last Friday, they could very much play spoiler down the stretch if they just catch a team on the right night. Justin, let's just quickly transition then to your neck of the woods for a bit. District 6A, I mean, man, I think if we had done this podcast last week, we might have a different narrative, but now all of a sudden, in the wake of one specific result last Friday, things are getting mighty interesting in your neck of the woods.
Well, for starters, you guys have a lot of playoff jockeying going on. I have jockeying for positioning in 6A, but it looks pretty clear that the 4 teams that are going to make the playoffs right now, coming into, I guess today, Monday, you have Coppell and Flower Mound. They're both 8-1. Tied for first, and then you have Marcus and Hebron both at 6-3, tied for third. So Louisville is only a game out; they're 5-4 and alone in 5th. But they weren't able to take a set off any of those top 4 teams in the first half. So it would be very surprising to see Louisville beat one of those 4 teams to get in the playoff mix. So for the purpose of this discussion, we're going to kind of focus on the 4 teams at the top. And like you said, it looked like it was going to be a 2-team race between Coppell and Flower Mound for the top spot. everybody's wondering what's going on with reigning state champ Hebron. They've won three state titles. Three-time state champ Hebron.
Yeah.
And 6 matches in, they were 3-3 in district, and everybody's saying what's going on. But they took care of a business against a couple of the urban schools to get back over 500 and back into that 4th spot. And then they just shocked everybody by turning around and just whooping up Coppell and sweeping them on Friday.
Here they come.
Coppell was unbeaten. Hebron was, as I said, was 5-3, and go figure, sweep. So they've split the series now, and they each have a sweep of each other. So a huge win for Hebron. They lost Adana Rollins. She was the Gatorade Player of the Year last year. Mm-hmm. Then they had who we thought was going to be their best player, Nicole Drudnick. She decides to not play high school volleyball, and she's in Brazil training, doing Olympic training and stuff. She's a Nebraska commit. She was going to be a junior, and a lot of people thought was going to be probably maybe the best player on the team. She's gone all of a sudden. Then you have Emma Clothier. She's been battling injury. She's never lost a playoff game, by the way. Senior that's won 3 straight.
How many kids can say that this deep into their high school career?
She's a senior. She's still never lost a playoff game, but she's been battling injury. They haven't had her for a lot of the season, so maybe they're starting to get a little healthier and really, I think, just adjusting to not having those players. They have a very young roster as well. Harmony Sample is playing a lot as a freshman, so I know Taylor got to see them a little while ago.
Yeah,
and
I saw him in preseason, and she was not very happy.
Yeah, Coach Karen Keeney there.
Yeah, and I saw it was actually a game where Emma went down. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think an ankle.
She had just came back and then went down again.
Yeah, she came back from a knee, I believe, and then went down with an ankle or something like that. But yeah, Kenny wasn't very happy just with the overall production and kind of a lack of buy-in.
She felt like her team wasn't being very coachable. They weren't really taking her pointers to heart and trying to implement them. So maybe that's something that's kind of changed over these past couple of weeks too.
Just if this isn't just a blip on the radar, and if Hebron is in fact back, quote unquote, because it's just one match, so we'll see what we'll see what happens when they see Flower Mound again and whatnot. But if they are in fact, just how much does this just shake up just the foundation of Region 1, not just 6XA, but just Region 1?
It's just going to be crazy when you look at. Just looking at the volleyball state rankings recently, they're a little outdated. TAVC ones because they were last posted on the 25th, but Coppell was the only team in 6XA that was ranked. Flower Mound never gets ranked. I don't know what Flower Mound.
Which is odd because they've been great this season.
I don't know what they have to do to be considered a top 25 team. That's pretty ridiculous in my opinion that they haven't been really ranked all year when you look at what they did in non-district and what they've done in district.
Didn't they sweep Plano West during non-district?
I believe they
West
did,
when West was firing off as the number 2 team in the state.
I saw them have absolutely no problem taking down Prosper in 4-2. So
let's get it together, TAVC.
Yeah, I don't know why they're not getting the acclaim they should, but they sit there tied for first. They gave Coppell everything they could handle in a 4-set loss. So between those 3 teams, and I was really impressed with Marcus when I saw them too.
Some pretty impressive results for them.
So I want to say these are all teams that are good and can make deep playoff runs, but then you look and you see who they're going to have to play in the first round of the playoffs and what's going on in 5-6A, where you currently have 4 teams that are ranked in the top 25. When you look at a team like Geyer that was the only team to take a set off Hebron in the state playoffs last year. So crazy enough, if playoffs started right now, if everything looks, and it's tough with the tiebreakers because some teams have only played twice and they can, but right now you would have first round matchups. You would have Byron Nelson playing Hebron in the first round, and then you would have Coppell playing Carroll in the first round.
Coppell and Carroll.
4 teams
those are 2 regional finals.
Yeah, 4 teams that 2 months ago.
Those are not 1-4s.
They all probably thought they have a legitimate chance to make the state tournament. 2 of them probably, if it pans out this way, are definitely not going to be playing in the second round. So
Plano ISD and Allen and McKinney ISD are so glad that they're away from that hodgepodge.
You have a Keller team over there that's playing really well in 5-6A, and then Geyer to go with Byron Nelson and Carroll, and then obviously those 4 6-6A teams we just mentioned. So that's going to be a crazy first round of playoffs.
Let's quickly shift gears to Class 5A for some talk about District. What is it? District 8. So we're having to do this between we just finished recording a football podcast and having to get these 5A football and volleyball districts straight. So District 8 5A and District 10 5A. Okay, with 10 5A. it's the Lovejoy show. I mean, we kind of
pretty unbelievable.
You can look on paper and you kind of expected this to be. Well, I mean, Lovejoy was kind of expected to run the table there and very much in position to do so. But just another year, another just staggeringly dominant run through district play for Lovejoy, who I believe is ranked. What are they? Number 2 in Class 5A.
Something like that. Number 2 or number 1, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, it's Lovejoy every year. They are in that state title conversation in Class 5A, and this year appears to be no different. Just Taylor, put into context just how dominant this district run has been for the Lady Leopards.
Well, it's a small district, which is a little strange. They've already been through the first half of district play, but only played 5 matches because I think it's only a 6-team district. But still, in those 5 matches, 9 sets, they've held their opponents to under 10 points. So 9 times. And they haven't allowed a single team to get in the 20s against them at all. Haven't lost a set at all. I think they're currently on like an 8-game sweep streak. Like they've swept teams, for 8 straight wins. And the most points I think they've given up in district so far is like 16 to Wiley East in a single set. So it's not just dominance. It's just like it's beyond that. They are going to repeat that performance obviously in the second half of district and we'll see even when they get tested in the playoffs. I mean, it's literally one of those cases. It's almost it's almost kind of akin to like Allen football. Like there's nobody that's going to even test them in district. There's nobody that's even going to give them a run. And then it just depends on who they run into in the playoffs, who could possibly stop them before they make the state tournament or whatever. Especially in Region 2, that's I think a weaker volleyball region than Region 1 in 5A. So I mean it's like as usual, kind of the sky's the limit for Lovejoy. And I think the one thing that may give them a little bit of a test is, I guess it would be you could say the first round, but really the third round, because they play that all Frisco crazy district in the playoffs in the first round. And there's 2 or 3 really good volleyball programs over there in Frisco Liberty, Frisco Wakeland, and Frisco Reedy, which again, depending on what ranking you consult, they're all somewhere top 10, 15 or so usually. So those schools, whoever maybe makes it out of the first round, second round, to potentially play Lovejoy in the third round could be the first real test that Lovejoy will see. But even then, I don't know who's gonna stop the Lady Leopards before they get to the state tournament.
Because it feels like that's like in years past with Lovejoy. I mean, Lovejoy has been at the apex of the Class 5A volleyball state title discussion for years. But there's always been at least like one other team in the district that can at least make them sweat a bit.
Right.
Like Highland Park has served that role in years past. I believe they were in the same district as Prosper, once upon a time. But yeah, I mean, this district, so you just wonder if how they're able to keep themselves just.
It's the Allen football question.
Yeah, how they keep themselves motivated. How head coach Jason Nicholson is able to just continue to challenge the girls when you're going out there and just night after night just holding opponents under 10 points in a set. Just because there is something to be said when the playoffs start. That uptick in competition whenever that comes, whether it's the third round or whatnot, and just how they handle that after just having mauled everyone prior. But yeah, it's just another season on the volleyball court for Lovejoy. Let's look at some Lake Dallas and some Colony out of District 8-5A, a district that has been very, very
Little Elm.
Little Elm. With the exception
District's
of one
crazy.
team, it's been a very, very unpredictable district, I would say. And you guys have been covering this district a bit more closer than I have. So just what are some impressions so far on just what to make of 8-5A?
I mean, anybody can beat anybody. Is literally what it feels like outside of Denton.
Can't recall a district with this much volleyball parity in a while. Denton's running away with it, but then you look at the last place team, Denton Ryan. They're 1-6. But they've only been swept twice, so they've taken sets off everybody basically, except for the top 2 teams. So,
and it's finally crystallizing a little bit more as far as who's going to make the postseason or who is more likely to make the postseason. There's now some 3 and 4 win teams that are in much better shape than
big week last week.
Yeah, there's some 2 and 6s or 2 and 5s, I guess, and that kind of thing that have kind of fallen out, including Lake Dallas, who. Lake Dallas is having a weird season, man, because I think they're talented. They're extremely young. Yeah. They have 2 seniors on the roster, and only one of them starts. So it's a real case of, I guess the most cliche thing that you could say about a young team is that they're just not quite there. They're not quite ready to finish games. They're not quite ready to close sets. Because I talk to head coach Jason Raymer over there pretty much weekly. and his message is pretty much all the same, and he'll even admit to it. He's like, it's the same song, just a different day. You know, we had a 20-12 lead, or we had a 20-16 lead, and then we let them creep back in, and then it's 23-22, and then we drop a couple points in a row and we lose the set. And it's been like that pretty much all year. So they're definitely a program that some hard luck this year, some coaching carousel issues before bringing in Raymer for sure. But I think a program that's going to get a lot of stability with him now. I think he's here for the long haul, and I think that next year and potentially the year after, they're going to be very, very good, because you know they're getting a ton of experience out of freshmen and sophomores right now that are going to be really, really good. You know, come
just
a year
kind
or
of like
two
we were
later.
alluding to earlier with Allen, just symptoms of a young team, and
Yep.
you just hope that just based off maturation and just natural development, that it might look rough now. You'll take those lumps when they're all freshmen and sophomores, but when they're sophomores, juniors, seniors, then it'll all be worth it.
Yep.
But the Colony, JT.
Well, the Colony looked to be in a little trouble. They started at 2-4. They opened district with a real tough loss against Little Elm. They had a 2-0 lead and dropped it 3-2, lost 3 in a row. That's the first time, surprisingly, they've ever lost to Little Elm. So struggling with consistency. This is another pretty young team, the Colony, led by their incredible athlete, Jada Coleman. It just does everything. But starting 2-4, but had a huge week last week. They pulled out 2 5-setters. They beat Little Elm to avenge their first 5-set loss. They come back and beat them in 5. And then on Friday, they get past Lake Dallas in 5. And that's huge, because if you look at the standings now, the Colony's up to 4-4.
Yep.
These are little wanky standings because of the bye weeks and stuff, so everything's going to match up perfectly. But they get to 4-4, and Little Elm and Lake Dallas both dropped to 2-6 with those losses. So huge to get that little breathing room against them. Excuse me.
Okay. That is that's a cursory look at least some of our markets. We're going to do a full-on line change in a moment, where we bring on Devin Hasson, Kendrick Johnson, Bryan Murphy, and they will talk volleyball in their neck of the woods, and we will do that after a word from this sponsor. Let's take a quick break to talk about ATD Painting. Whether it's painting, staining, carpentry, residential, commercial, interior, exterior, if you need it painted, ATD Painting has got you covered. At ATD Painting, their goal is to provide a home improvement experience that is a great value, trouble-free, and enjoyable. And painting is really just kind of scratching the surface as to what these appointments entail. For ATD Painting's interior projects, things like painting, wall repair, ceiling repair, they'll make sure that your floors and furniture are protected and that everything is all cleaned up afterwards. For exterior projects, not only will they do the painting, but they will hand scrape loose paint, reattach loose boards, recalc windows or doors, plus much more. Not only that, if you visit their website right now, atdpainting.com, you can find a coupon for $200 off a complete exterior purchase. Once again, ATD Painting. They've got 4 locations in the Metroplex, including in Plano and Louisville. For more information, call 972-694-8888 or visit atdpainting.com. That is ATD Painting. Check it out to see just how affordable professional painting can be. And now, let's get back to the podcast.
All right, thanks, guys. And now the Emergency Volleyball Podcast continues. I'm Bryan Murphy with Kendrick Johnson and Devin Hasson here. And now we're going to talk our markets, for the Friscos, the McKinneys, the Mesquites, and the Raglin ISD, those areas. A lot happening in volleyball there. Lots of state-ranked teams, lots of
drama.
Lots of drama on your end in McKinney. Let's talk about that drama then. What's going on in McKinney, Kendrick?
So you were starting with the good, the bad, or the ugly? What's so ugly?
Let's do the let's get that out of the way.
The good, the bad, the drama.
I want to hear the drama first, actually.
The drama would be McKinney Boyd. They have one of the most talented teams in the state. They got 4 girls already committed to D1s. They'll probably have 4 more. Very talented. Shout out to my girl, JJ Castillo, great coach. But they're having a bunch of chemistry issues with her. Got them in the hole, and they're playing that beast of a district that's not 6A, where you got some Plano Wests, you got some Allens, you got some Planos.
No, you're forgetting the defending 5A state champion.
5A state champion. I think they 3 in the state.
So it's 4.
So every game's a dogfight, and they start off 2-4 in district. They beat Plano East, but this week is a beast. They got to play Prosper and they got to play Plano West. They must win one of their games. If not, the prospects of them missing the playoffs for the second year in a row go up. The school's been open for 11 years. Last year's the first year they missed the playoffs in 9 years, and they've never missed back-to-back years. So that's a ton of pressure on these girls.
And they came in state ranked and high expectations.
They
all
won
that.
Lone Star Champions tournament and all that. So they have the talent to do it, but I don't know if the chemistry is going to go together. It's going to be interesting to see. If they can win one of these 2 games, I think they can find a way to get over that hump. And to make things worse, my other team, McKinney, the other way around, nobody was picking them. And there's 7 teams in the district. I think they might have been picked last. But now that the dust has settled, McKinney High, the Lionets, shout out to Eric Hickenbottom, who gives my vote for Coach of the Year. They've been ranked as high as 6 in the state. They weren't supposed to be 6 in the old district. That's how it's boom. They have 6 core senior girls and a bunch of talented juniors who have learned to play together. They feed off each other, and all they do is win the game. You look at them, you're like, oh, they're gonna lose to Allen. Sweet. They're gonna lose to Plano West. Swept them too. They swept everybody but Prosper, who's running ruckshot of the old district. So there's no shame in losing to them. But everybody else they have beaten. And nobody saw this coming. And they came into the season, said, we want to shed the label of underdogs. Hats off to y'all, ladies. Y'all shed that underdog because they are for real. And they're for real, to the point where they're going to get in the playoffs, and I think they're going to make a run. They're gonna catch up with some playoff teams. They're going to be like, man, they just barely got up in here until they get popped in the mouth.
Well, and in that same district, you mentioned Prosper. I know they had high expectations coming off a state championship in 5A. Are you surprised, though, how have they translated that success into 6A this year?
I'm not surprised that they're 8-0. I'm surprised that they've only lost 2 sets total through 8 games in this district. I saw them play last week against McKinney. McKinney's been red hot. They came in that game with a 5-game winning streak.
They didn't take a set at home.
No, they swept McKinney. They swept McKinney.
Who's the last team to beat them in a set?
I think it was Plano.
Yeah.
Plano. It was a 3-1 a couple weeks ago. But yeah, McKinney just can't figure out Prosper. They've lost to them twice. The only team they've lost to in that district.
Twice.
Man, Prosper. There was some question marks. Early in the year they playing
they have very
some
good cohesiveness.
Oh yeah, and they're very well coached. Erin Kaufman, I think she is the leading vote getter for Coach of the Year.
They're supposed to be in the playoffs.
But
nobody.
But they weren't supposed to be 8-0 and throttling Plano West and sweeping Boyd.
True, but here's the thing, though: when you're supposed to be 6 in your own district, but you're 6 in the state. That's a big
Who
jump.
said Prosper was supposed to be 6 in the district?
No, he's talking about McKinney.
Oh, okay. Oh, for sure, yeah.
That's why.
Well, they're not.
That's why Coach Higginbotham, you get my vote.
Well, we'll see how
political already.
We'll see how they do down the second half of the season when they rematch West and they rematch Plano and Boyd and have that big showdown in McKinney against Boyd. So we'll see there. But Prosper, man, they're ranked number 4 in the state. They very well run the table in this district. And Coach Erin Kaufman, I talked to her after the game against McKinney. I was like, yeah, a lot of people were picking y'all to, finish 3rd, 4th, maybe even miss the playoffs in this district. And she was just kind of laughing. She's like, man, every year we play 6A teams in non-district. So the fact that we, played 5A district schedule the past, forever up until this season is nothing because they've been playing the Ruckle Heats. They've been playing even the Lovejoys and the so-and-sos, all these powerhouse teams all across the state and the South Lake Carrolls and all that. So I'm not too surprised. I'm surprised how dominant it's been, but I'm not surprised that they're in first place.
That's the thing that's crazy with Boyd. They got the talent, have beaten some of those teams. It's like, I don't know. It's like they can't put it together. Mm-hmm. And then in my 5A team, shout out to my friend Coach Fryer, Christina Fryer, McKinney North, having the playoffs since 2013. They're on the cusp of ending that drought. They came in. They have a bunch of core group of seniors and everything is finished together. They're going to be finishing in the playoffs. So hats off to them. They're in another beast of a district where they have a head hitter, which is a heavy hitter, which is Lovejoy and everybody else. But they're beating everybody else up for Wiley East, and they're trending towards a playoff berth, which is really big news because McKinney North had some problems in the volleyball department.
Now I want to jump back over to 6A before we dive back into the rest of our 5A schools. Another team that's state ranked in 6A. My alma mater, Sachse. How are they looking?
Sachse has been they started their first varsity season in 2004. They've never missed the playoffs, so they're right where they expect to be. This district 10-6A is actually kind of it's not officially a done deal, but you got Sachse at 9-0, Violet 8-1, and then Rowlett and Naaman Forest is 6-3, and then there's a 3-game gap to Lakeview 3-6. So for all intents and purposes, the playoff field is set. There's still some seeding issues to work out, but you mentioned Sachse. Sachse, like I just said, has been a perennial playoff team, but they're also a team that gets 1 or 2 rounds before they're gone. there's a lot of talk around there that this may be the year they break through. Obviously, running into 9-6A in the first round is going to be difficult. But, Sachse's 34-5. They did beat Prosper early in tournament play, so it was best of 3. But they played some really top-notch competition. To be walking away with a 34-5 record is impressive. They've got 5 or 6 girls that are outstanding hitters. Kara Barnes, Alicia Hearn kind of lead that pack. Elisa Kennedy is an outstanding setter. Emma Waniger kind of spearheads their defense. And they've had a couple freshmen that stepped up. Zoria Hurd and Ava Camacho have become a regular part of the rotation to bolster an already strong lineup. So, this could be the year. Again, Sachse, it may be one of those deals where they run into their toughest competition in that first round against one of those, powerhouse teams out of 9-6A, but they've also proven they can compete with those teams. They played them in non-district. And so, Sachse looking strong. They dropped 1 set in district play, and that was one of those where you win the first 2 games pretty easily. You kind of rotate and drop one, and you get things back on track in the 4th game. So, Rowlett, again, they haven't missed the playoffs since their first season in 1996, so they're going for 22 years in a row.
Wow.
They have some talent. Essex West was the district most valuable player. Haley Doctor, Funmi Oladipo. Again, they just sometimes they kind of lack. Like I saw them against Garland last week, and they just came out kind of sloppy, kind of slow, and then got things together. So they're going to make the playoffs, but they're probably going to get matched up with Prosper or get matched up with Plano West, and it's going to take their A game and a lot more for them to be able to do something else, like to get past that team of that caliber.
How you say that name? Haley what?
Haley Doctor?
Oh, you said Faluda.
Oh, Funmi? Funny.
Now staying in 6A, what's going on with the Mesquite schools in the 6A?
That district is ruled by the Rockwall schools. It was
Heath.
Last year. Rockwall, Heath, and Rockwall.
Heath is undefeated in that district.
They
right?
are. They are. They're 8-0. Rockwall's right behind them at 7-1. Last year, these 2 teams tied for the district title. This year, Rockwall Heath swept them. They haven't dropped a set during district play.
I actually saw Heath play against Wakeland earlier this year in non-district play, and Wakeland beat them. At home. So, but Rockwall's Heath is really good.
Yeah, they're both solid, and you got to have a 3-team battle there in the middle. Horn's 4-4, Tyler Lee's 4-4, Longview's 3-4. What Horn has going in their favor, 2 things. Number 1, they don't have to play the Rockwall schools anymore. They've already gotten them. They played them twice. That's where their 4 losses came from, and they beat Tyler Lee and Longview during the first round of district play, albeit in close games. Lee took them to 5, and Longview took them to 4. But Horn, controls its own destiny as they look to get back to the playoffs. Mesquite, North Mesquite are kind of relegated to the role of spoiler. North Mesquite was able to take a game off Longview last Friday, but really the only drama is can Rockwall pull the upset of Heath in their rematch, and how that the 3 teams fighting for the final 2 playoff berths. I think if you just go by what happened in the first half, you're looking at Horn as your 3rd seed and Tyler Lee's your 4th seed.
Now, I brought up Wakeland. That kind of transitions over to one of the more unique districts that we cover, that I cover really, because there's 10 Frisco teams in one district.
This is crazy.
It is wild. They started district play in mid-August. y'all are doing tournaments, and volleyball's not. We're not gearing totally into volleyball yet. We're doing football previews, and I'm over here having to cover district games already that are meaningful in the playoff picture. That district it's shaping out for the most part. It's fairly top heavy. There's some teams in the middle like Frisco and Centennial that could be battling with Lebanon Trail for that 4th spot, but the top 3 are pretty solidified. You have Liberty, Reedy, and Wakeland. Those top 2 are state ranked. Wakeland was state ranked in the top 5 for the first few weeks of the year, but they've lost a couple games to Liberty and Reedy. I think Wakeland should still be state ranked. A lot of the times I don't agree with those rankings. I don't know how they determine those, but Liberty, led by Jenna Wimess, she's one of the top outside hitters in the state. She's only a junior. She won district MVP last year, and she's on a tear once again so far this season. Reedy, they lose 2 of their best players, and Ashley Rasnick Pope and Stephanie Wolf, or Rachel Wolf, I should say, and they're right back in the thick of things. The great senior class. Wakeland, they appear to be back to the Wakeland team from a few years ago, but we'll see how that shapes out with still lots of work games to be played. They're playing 18 district games in this one. It's wild. So five more games to go there. You mentioned McKinney North. Already for 5A.
But before we move on, literally, I was talking about all these D1ers that Boyd got. congrats to Celeste Darden. She just announced on Twitter that she's committed to the University of Louisiana Lafayette.
Okay.
So that's the type of talent that they got.
Breaking news.
Breaking news on the Emergency Volleyball Podcast.
That's the type of talent that they got.
Yeah.
They have McKenna Kelty going to the Army. Coco, she's going to UT San Antonio. Courtney, she's going to UT San Antonio. So they got the talent to do it.
Sure.
But switching gears to 5A, the McKinney North volleyball teams, basically equivalent of the, put in basketball now, since basketball start next week, the equivalent of the Memphis Grizzlies. They be gritting and grinding to make things happen. They don't got nobody that's flashy. They don't got the superstar. They just play good. They grit. They fight to the last point. And that's been a very efficient way for them to get wins. They went from, they had one time they were 5 or 6 games under 500 to another game over 500. They won 9 of their last 11 matches. Only lost was to Lovejoy, who's going to run away with that.
Number 2 in the state.
Number 2 in the state, and they lost a close match to Wiley East to the point where they're looking forward to seeing them back next week in North. So the things are looking up for McKinney North, but the big thing of them is getting in the playoffs. They came to the last week and got beat by Little Elm last year in a winner-take-all game. So that's been on these girls' minds. So for them, a lot of them, I think 60% of the team are seniors, to get in the playoffs would be a big thing for them and a big step for that program. 2013 is a long team. Were you in school then? No.
I'm not that young. I'm not that much of a baby, Kendrick. But yeah, so rounding out 5A action, the Poteets and whatnot over there. What's going on with that district in 5A?
Yeah, real quickly, it's kind of a 3-team race right now. You have North Forney and Forney tied at 6-1, Poteet right behind them at 6-2. Those 3 teams have distanced themselves from the field.
So easily the best Mesquite team in 5A?
Yes, yeah. West Mesquite is in a down cycle. It's been tough sledding for them in volleyball here in recent years. But Poteet, they had a streak of 20 consecutive playoff appearances that were snapped a few years ago, and they've missed out the last 4 years. And it's always been they finished 5th, 1 game out, 2 games out. It's been, and they played in a much tougher district because they had Lovejoy and they had Wiley East and they had some of these stronger programs. But they're not in yet, but they're in great shape. Their only 2 losses both came to North Forney. They did beat Forney, handed Forney their only loss. So those top 3 spots are going to be determined on their future head-to-head matchups. And I think Poteet, they may be able to put together a nice little run. Tanaya Brown, Ryan Shanklin, they have 2 very dependable options hitting the ball. They have some nice role players that kind of step in. And again, it's a big confidence booster because it's such a frustrating feeling getting so close and falling short. And now to put themselves in a position to where they can make the playoffs, just for posterity's sake. Kaufman is probably going to get that 4th spot. They're 4-4. They picked up a big win the other night. But focusing on Poteet, there's no reason to believe that they can't. Now that losing the tiebreaker to North Forney could factor in, but North Forney almost slipped up against Kaufman. They got stretched to 5, so there's no reason to believe that Poteet's dream of a district championship isn't still a viable option. And but the most important thing is making the playoffs. Like I say, after a 4-year drought for a program that's enjoyed as much success as Poteet has had over the years, the Pirates are right in line to get back.
Let's see if the Lady Pirates can get it done.
Yeah,
only time will tell. But that'll just about wrap up the emergency volleyball podcast here on the High School Sports Podcast show. For Kendrick Johnson, Devin Hasson, I'm Bryan Murphy. We'll catch you later this week on our Game of the Week podcast, so stay tuned for that.
Thanks for checking out this edition of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast, brought to you by Performance Food Group. Performance Food Group delivers more than 150,000 food and related products to customers all across the country. If you want to get in on that process, PFG just might have a spot for you. Their McKinney office is currently hiring. Job openings include Class A CDL drivers and warehouse order selectors, as well as many other entry and part-time positions. An ideal choice for college students or people just wanting to find new careers in general. For more information, you can visit their website at pfgc.com/careers for more job openings. If you prefer to contact them by phone, you can call at 214-491-3130 for more details. Once again, that is Performance Food Group, located in McKinney at 500 Metro Park Drive.